Hi, welcome back to Rise and Sprout. I decided I needed to take advantage of the opportunity to record this video in complete silence because everybody in my family is gone right now. However, I came out here to enjoy some sunshine and my neighbor's doing something. So if you hear that in the background, that's whatever that is. So I mentioned in the last video that I was going to get into what I started to do in order to switch my nutrition and to start my healing with food. And the first thing that I jumped into was the Paddison Program. And I also touched on in my last video that I'm a religious person. So the answer that I received to prayer was that this is where I needed to start. And now in hindsight, I actually see that the Lord was just helping me on this path little by little each time, because years ago I had the desire to start learning how to grind my own wheat and bake my own bread. And that has helped me immensely right now, as well as learning how to make beans from being cooked dried, or starting from being cooked dried, if that makes sense. But anyway, I'm sure all of us have a story like that where just in hindsight you can see the little things that led you to where you were supposed to be. So it wasn't surprising when I kept getting those inklings that I needed to start with diet. And when I got the answer to start with the Paddison Program, I knew I was just going to jump in 100% and there was going to be no looking back. So I have the book here so I can show it to you. This is what the book looks like when you buy it. You actually get a e-file to print it off, so that's what I did. And the Paddison Program was amazing because it's a very specific elimination diet. And so if you're one, you just want to be told exactly what to do, I don't know where to start, this is amazing, because that's what I was like. I knew I wanted to start with diet. I didn't know where. I didn't know if I was having food sensitivities or not. And I didn't want to do it on my own. I needed somebody to tell me exactly what to do. And so the Paddison Program is very specific. You go through different phases, a cleanse phase, and then reintroducing foods and things like that. And it's very specific with, like, the first 12 days is a cleanse and you can introduce certain foods back. One of the things that I did here, I have a journal. So every day I kept track of where my pain was and I rated it between a 1 and a 10 so that I could have a total number. So if I zoom in a little bit, I would have a total number. Like on this day, my total pain gauge was a 31, based on where most of my pain was in my hands and in my wrists. And it just let me know as the days progressed, I could see, oh, when I first started, it was at a 31, and today, 2 weeks later, I'm at a 25. So you could see that it was going down. The other thing about the Paddison Program that really blessed me is, again, this was the first introduction that I had to what a whole food plant-based diet was. And it introduced me to all of the doctors and all of their research. And so as you can imagine, as I was doing this, I was reading everything and researching everything that I could get my hands on or heard about. I just wanted to make sure that the science was real. And I wanted to know for myself that there were results and that there were doctors out there who were treating patients this way. So I know there's a lot of negative things maybe if you go out and search the Paddison Program, but I'm telling you, there's nothing but results that can come to you if you're doing anything whole food plant-based. You're gonna see results, no matter if it's the Paddison Program or it's Dr. McDougall's starch solution, or if you're following Dr. Esselstyn's a plan for reversing cardiac disease, or if you're doing Dr. Goldner's healing protocol, you will see results because they are all following a whole food, plant-based diet. The difference, though, I feel, is that each person needs to find what their balance is in that whole food, plant-based nutrition. I, for one, found that I need a lot more omega-3s and I need a lot more water. Some people can get by with 96 ounces of water. I actually will feel it in my jaw when my body is getting dehydrated. And I used to think that that was my rheumatoid arthritis, which it could have been. It could have been made worse by it. But I actually will still have that right now if I am dehydrated or I'm not getting my full 127 ounces of water a day. And it's not severe. It's not like excruciating where I can't, bite or chew or anything. It's just I start feeling a little twinge in my jaw, and that tells me that I need to drink water. And it goes away as soon as I start getting back to my normal ounces of water that I need. It's gone. So back to the Paddison program. I started seeing noticeable results within the first 20 days. My pain was lessening. At the time when I started, I had a huge cyst on my wrist, again from just going to the gym and things, and from my pain, and it completely went away in just the first 20 days. So as you can imagine, I knew right away I was on the right track with something here. And it probably was about, I would say 30 or 35 days. I'd have to look back in my journal. I woke up one morning and I could bend my thumbs. When I first started, my thumbs were like this. I couldn't bend them past that. And I went into the bathroom crying tears of joy to my husband that I could bend my thumbs. And it had been such a long time that I was able to do that. It was just amazing. And it feels amazing when you can finally do that again. And I just kept doing the program, and I'm not going to tell you that it was easy because it was one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. My 2019 year was the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And, after 30 plus years of eating a certain way, being taught a certain way about what you eat and the food that you eat and what you don't eat, and changing it overnight is hard. But you can do hard things. Anybody can do hard things if you have the determination. The number one thing that you have to decide for yourself is your why. Why are you going to do this? Why will you stick to it 100%? For me, it wasn't just to get rid of the pain, even though that was a huge part of it. I just wanted to have a future. I wanted to be able to run with my kids, my grandkids. I didn't want to have a crippled future and have my motion and movement being taken away from me. So I was determined that that was not going to happen. And so I was in this 100%. I will tell you, since 2019 when I started this, there's been one day that I cheated. And it was about, I'd have to look back at the journal again. My husband and my kids were making chocolate chip cookies. And it was probably maybe a month, maybe 2 months. And I literally was going through the huge sugar withdrawals because I was addicted to food. And when you cut that out, you notice real quick how your body was dependent on that. And I just went into a room and cried because I so badly wanted those cookies with my family. And I didn't tell them this, but the next morning I actually had a bite of one. And that's all I had. And it did not satisfy the craving that I thought it was going to. And I knew that keeping and eating that food was what was keeping me sick, and that after that point I was not going to go back. So ever since then I have been 100%. And a lot of people ask me how it is that I can do that. and you have to have your why, and it has to be a strong why. And not only that, but I received this as an answer to prayer. So I knew that if God knew that I could heal and He gave me this, then I was going to follow it 100%, because I would never know for myself if it worked if I didn't. So when I started the Paddison program, I gave myself the goal that I was going to give it until July before I made any yay or nay decision of whether it was working or not. But again, I was seeing results in just the first 20 days, so I knew I was going to stick with it. It wasn't until about April and May I started to have some pain coming back in my hands and in my wrists again. And I'm not sure if the camera is zooming in and out or not. But it really was driving me crazy. And it made me start to question everything that I was doing, everything that I was eating. Did I need to go back to the very beginning of the Paddison program and start over? Did I reintroduce something too quickly? And I actually have my calendars here so you can see. So you do a 12-day cleanse. So I wrote on the calendar for my whole family to see this 12-day cleanse, and then each day when I introduced a new food. And then I could keep track if I was having a reaction to it or not. And my family was so supportive during this, especially that first month or two when I was reintroducing foods and I did that cleanse. My husband and my kids cooked all of their own meals so that I could just focus on me and what I was making for myself and what I could eat, so that I wasn't tempted by the food that they were eating. I didn't have to cook it or smell it or look at it. And it was such a blessing. And I told them too that once I had introduced all these foods, that I wasn't going to be cooking 2 meals, that I was going to be cooking 1 meal, and it was going to be what I could eat. And they were all okay with that. I don't know if they would take that back now if they knew that that was the case, but they've been great sports. So anyway, back to when I was starting to feel some pain again. I kind of had closed into myself, and my husband, just was asking me what was happening, because it was like I just completely shut down. I was just constantly on the computer researching and reading. What was I doing wrong? I was questioning, was it the water I was drinking? Was it the fluoride in the water? So I started just drinking bottled waters. I started questioning maybe it was any of the supplements that I was taking that said, made in a facility with nuts. So I stopped taking those. I started questioning maybe it was the soaps or the makeups that I was using, because they might have had some animal product. So I stopped using those. I was questioning everything, even the toothpaste. I bought a different toothpaste because I thought, well, maybe that I'm having a reaction to that. And I even had gone to the point of calling the True North Clinic in California. They do a long-term water fast. It's a water fast facility. So I looked into maybe, looking into that and trying that. And I did make an appointment to call one of the doctors at their facility. And it was really enlightening, because they were very encouraging in just reiterating that the fact that I had seen results in the beginning with changing my diet meant that I was on to something, and that I was still early into it, to not give up and to keep going. But the other interesting thing is the doctor had asked me a lot of questions about my medical history and just my childhood and how I was delivered and if I was breastfed and all of these things. And it was really fascinating, because based on my history, she really narrowed down that part of my problem was I had a very large viral and bacterial load, and that very well could have contributed to my rheumatoid arthritis. and also having an imbalance of the bacteria in my gut. And just to give you a little background on my history, which I didn't think had anything to do with my rheumatoid arthritis, but as a child, I had chronic strep throat. Every year I had it multiple times. Finally, when I was 5 years old, I had my tonsils taken out, and it did help that I didn't have it as often, but I still did have strep throat. And at a very young age, I knew right away that if I was sick, I would say, I need a Z-Pack. I would tell my mom I need to go to the doctor to get a Z-Pack. So nothing against my mom or the doctors or anything. I mean, that's just what people are taught. But I had a lot of incidences with bacteria or antibiotics. And going into my adulthood, with all of my pregnancies, I tested positive for group B. So again, with each pregnancy, I'm pumped with antibiotics. And that also led into having several cases after my deliveries of having bacterial vaginosis and needing again to be on more antibiotics. So again, each time you're taking antibiotics, just like I was, it's destroying your gut, all of your good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria. And I even as a teenager went on Accutane, which Clint Paddison in his Paddison Program talks about. He feels that that was the first inkling of his progression in his disease, was that he did that for years as a young adult. So here I am, I'm just connecting the dots with all of these things, as I talk to this doctor. And I'm realizing that going on a whole food plant-based diet will completely switch your gut. And everything that you eat on a whole food plant-based diet does nothing but feed the good bacteria. So you're just over time building up a good balance of the bacteria in your gut. So after I got off the phone with them, I actually did on my own a 3-day water fast. And I'm not suggesting that for anyone. Definitely consult with your physician, because I probably shouldn't have done it. I lost a lot of weight real fast doing that, and I didn't have weight to lose. I was already underweight at the time when I did that, but I was just so desperate for healing. I just so desperately wanted the pain to go away. And at that same time, somebody had mentioned to me Dr. Brooke Goldner, and I had gone onto her website. I see pollen floating, to get on her website and to check everything out. And she was actually going to be teaching her free protocol that week. So I got registered, and I was ready to hear, what it was that I was missing. There was something that I was missing. And let me tell you what I've learned now. On the Paddison Program, my body was healing. And because I was starting to introduce cooked foods slow down the healing. Only because the cooking method destroys enzymes, right? It destroys some of the healing properties of the food versus if you're eating them raw. But what was happening when I was starting to have that pain that was coming back was the healing and the detox. And because I had been clean for so long, my body was now starting to utilize all of the food that I was eating to heal my body at a cellular level. And I thought that that pain was because I was having sensitivities or a reaction to something, but it was actually the healing of my body. And Dr. Brooke Goldner's healing protocol is all raw. So it puts you into a healing very rapidly. So with that, I was having pain coming back with slow healing. So as you can imagine, with a rapid healing will come a lot more pain will come with that. So in my next video, I'm going to jump into Dr. Brooke Goldner's healing protocol and how my experience was with that. I'm not going to go into too much detail with these programs because like I said again, I had to buy the Paddison Program, so it's not going to do Clint any justice for me to read the book to you. But again, the Paddison Program was a huge part in my healing because the benefit with the program is you're introducing the foods so slowly and one at a time that it forced me to get creative with how I was making these foods, because I was, just so limited on what I could eat. I had to get very creative on how I was cooking them just to give myself a variety. And it really, really gave me the basis of learning how to eat whole food plant-based and to cook with the different foods and to learn what the different foods even were. And with Dr. Brooke Goldner's healing protocol, I just learned just those few tweaks of the things that I was missing that really put me into that last rapid healing that I was so desperately searching for. So I will see you the next time, and we'll talk about the healing protocol. Thanks.